Srimad Bhagavatam, translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Canto 1, Chapter 7, The Son of Drona Punished. Text 34. After binding Asvatthama, Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. The Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to angry Arjuna. Purport. Both Arjuna and Lord Krishna are described here in an angry mood, but Arjuna's eyes were like balls of red copper, because the eyes of the Lord are like the lotus. This means that the angry mood of Arjuna and that of the Lord are not on the same level. The Lord is transcendental, and thus He is absolute in any stage. His anger is not like the anger of a conditioned living being within the modes of qualitative material nature. Because He is absolute, both His anger and pleasure are the same. His anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. It is only a sign of His bent of mind towards the cause of His devotee, because that is His transcendental nature. Therefore, even if He is angry, the object of His anger is blessed. He is unchanged in all circumstances. 35. Text 35. Lord Sri Krishna said, O Arjuna, you should not show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahmin, Brahmabandhu, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. Purport. The word Brahmabandhu is significant. A person who happens to take birth in the family of a Brahmin, but is not qualified to be called a Brahmin, is addressed as the relative of a Brahmin, and not as a Brahmin. The son of a high court judge is not virtually a high court judge, but there is no harm in addressing a high court judge's son as a relative of the honorable justice. Therefore, as by birth only one does not become a high court judge, so also one does not become a Brahmin simply by birthright, but by acquiring the necessary qualifications of a Brahmin. As the high court judgeship is a post for the qualified man, so also the post of Brahmin is attainable by qualification only. The Shastra enjoins that even if good qualifications are seen in a person, born in a family other than a Brahmin, the qualified man has to be accepted as a Brahmin. And similarly, if a person born in the family of a Brahmin is void of Brahminical qualification, then he must be treated as a non-Brahmin, or, in better terms, a relative of a Brahmin. Lord Sri Krishna, the supreme authority of all religious principles, the Vedas, has personally pointed out these differences, and he is about to explain the reason for this in the following slokas. Text 36. A person who knows the principles of religion does not kill an enemy who is careless, intoxicated, insane, asleep, afraid, or devoid of his chariot. Nor does he kill a boy, a woman, a foolish creature, or a surrendered soul. Purport. An enemy who does not resist is never killed by a warrior who knows the principles of religion. Formerly, battles were fought on the principles of religion, and not for the sake of sense gratification. If the enemy happened to be intoxicated, asleep, etc., as above mentioned, he was never to be killed. These are some of the codes of religious war. Formerly, war was never declared by the whims of selfish political leaders, but it was carried out on religious principles free from all vices. Violence carried out on religious principles is far superior to so-called nonviolence. Text 37. A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being. Otherwise, he will go down by his actions. Purport. A life for a life is a just punishment for a person who cruelly and shamelessly lives at the cost of another's life. Political morality is to punish a person by a life sentence in order to save a cruel person from going to hell. That a murderer is condemned to a life sentence by the state is good for the culprit, because in his next life he will not have to suffer for his act of murder. Such a life sentence for the murderer is the lowest possible punishment offered to him, and it is said in the Smriti Shastras that men who are punished by the king on the principle of a life for a life are purified of all their sins, so much so that they may be eligible for being promoted to the planets of heaven. According to Manu, the great author of civic codes and religious principles, even the killer of an animal is to be considered a murderer, because animal food is never meant for the civilized man, whose prime duty is to prepare himself for going back to Godhead. He says that in the act of killing an animal, there is a regular conspiracy by the party of sinners, and all of them are liable to be punished as murderers, exactly like a party of conspirators who kill a human being combinedly. He who gives permission, he who kills the animal, he who sells the slaughtered animal, he who cooks the animal, he who administers distribution of the foodstuff, and at last, he who eats such cooked animal food are all murderers, and all of them are liable to be punished by the laws of nature. No one can create a living being despite all advancement of material science, and therefore no one has the right to kill a living being by one's independent whims. For the animal eaters, the scriptures have sanctioned restricted animal sacrifices only. Such sanctions are there to restrict the opening of slaughterhouses and not to encourage animal killing. The procedure under which animal sacrifice is allowed in the scriptures is good both for the animal sacrificed and the animal eaters. It is good for the animal in the sense that the sacrificed animal is at once promoted to a human form of life after being sacrificed at the altar, and the animal eater is saved from grosser types of sins, eating meat supplied by organized slaughterhouses, which are ghastly places for breeding all kinds of material afflictions to society, country, and to the people in general. The material world is itself a place always full of anxieties, and by encouraging animal slaughter, the whole atmosphere becomes polluted more and more by war, pestilence, famine, and many other unwanted calamities. Text 38. Furthermore, I have personally heard you promise Draupadi that you would bring forth the head of the killer of her sons. Text 39. This man is an assassin and murderer of your own family members. Not only that, but he has also dissatisfied his master. He's but the burnt remnants of his family. Kill him immediately. Purport. The son of Dronacharya is condemned here as the burnt remnants of his family. The good name of Dronacharya is very much respected. Although he joined the enemy camp, he was still held always in respect, for the Pandavas and Arjunas saluted him before beginning the fight. There was nothing wrong in that way, but the son of Dronacharya degraded himself by committing acts which are never done by the Dvijas or the twice-born higher castes. Aswatthama, son of Dronacharya, committed murder by killing the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, by which he dissatisfied his master Duryodhana, who never approved of the heinous act of killing the 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas. This means that Aswatthama became an assaulter of Arjuna's own family members, and thus he was liable to be punished by him. In the Shastras, he who attacks without notice, or kills from behind, or sets fire to another's house, or kidnaps one's wife, is condemned to death. These facts are reminded by Krishna to Arjuna so that he might take notice of them and do the needful. Text 40. Sri Sutta Goswami said, despite being instructed in his duty and encouraged to kill the son of Dronacharya, Arjuna, a great soul, did not like the idea of killing him, although he was a heinous murderer of his family members. Purport. Arjuna was a great soul undoubtedly, which is proved here also. He is encouraged herein personally by the Lord to kill the son of Drona. But Arjuna considers that the son of his great teacher should be spared, for he happens to be the son of Dronacharya, even though he is an unworthy son. He had done all sorts of heinous acts whimsically for no one's benefit. Lord Sri Krishna encouraged Arjuna outwardly just to test Arjuna's sense of duty. It is not that Arjuna was incomplete in the sense of his duty, nor was Lord Sri Krishna unaware of Arjuna's sense of duty. But Lord Sri Krishna put to test many of his pure devotees just to magnify the sense of duty. The gopis were put to such tests as well. Prahlad Maharaj also was put to such a test. All pure devotees come out successful in the respective tests by the Lord.